Good morning. Good morning. I'm grateful you found your way here through traffic, through the news, through whatever the morning was determined to throw at you. You needed a sense of humor just to get into this room, and you'll need a little more to stay because this is a very strange message to hear at this hour. You may have come for a fix, some words you can put like a patch on a leaky place. And here I am, about to tell you that we are not going to patch anything, and we are certainly not going to make a better, shinier you. Strange work, unusual work, yet here we are. I want to say at the outset, so no one tightens up and decides I'm unkind, that we are not here to argue with your pain. We are not here to contradict symptoms or to cancel grief by proclamation. Not at all, not at all. If the body aches, it aches. If the heart is heavy, it is heavy. If the bill is due, it is due. We can grant that honestly, and we do. What we question, and what may feel like a gentle but very real confrontation, is the assumption that there is a separate me inside that ache, inside that fear, and that this me is condemned to carry it as mine. Mine to fear, mine to fix, mine to be defined by. That is the point at which the pain becomes final and hopeless. That is the point we will not concede. You may ask, if nothing is wrong with me, then why does it hurt so much? Why the tightness, the pressure, the knot of dread at 3 in the morning? Why the tears? Because the experience is real to sense, and we are not denying it. We are asking a prior question. What gives the experience its binding power? What fastens it to the heart so that it seems personal and inescapable? The only honest answer I have found, after a little living and more than a little weeping, is this: the belief in separation. The belief that I am here, God is somewhere else. Life is out there, and I am in here. Problems are hurled at me from a world foreign to my being. Under that belief, pain is not only felt, it is owned. It becomes a name tag. Consider for a moment if the condition itself were the whole cause, then the responses it evoked would be uniform. The same diagnosis would produce the same terror in every mind. The same loss would produce the same collapse in every heart. Yet we know this isn't so. We have stood at hospital bedsides and seen one person go rigid with panic and another, with that very same word spoken over them, go quiet, even luminous. We have watched one man meet the layoff as a personal annihilation and another meet it with a curious steadiness and an unexpected clarity about next steps. What changed? Not the word, not the event, not the weather. The difference lay in the sense of who or what was inside the event. Was it a solitary self, cut off and overmatched? Or was there, at some level, a felt presence, quiet, unpanicked, not owned by the picture? I am not scolding anyone for their reaction. Please don't hear me putting one soul above another. Oh, not at all, not at all. I am pointing to this because it is evidence that the event is not the tyrant. The identification is, and that is good news. If the event were the tyrant, we would be helpless. But if misidentification is what binds, then right identification can unbind. If separation assumed as fact is the ache underneath the ache, then awakening to oneness is the balm underneath all balms. Now the ego would like to jump up and protest. Are you saying it's all in my head? No, no. Thinking won't make this so, and thinking won't make it go. We are not advocating positive thinking, which is usually terrified thinking dressed in a nicer suit. We are not prescribing denial, which is fear with its eyes closed. We are not assigning blame. Heaven help us from that habit. We are saying there is a different basis of life available to us, here and now, one in which we begin to question, gently but persistently, who is the claimant of this experience? Who exactly is the I that hurts? Who exactly is the me that is insufficient, unlovable, endangered? If we follow that me to its root, we will find nothing solid there, only a bundle of conclusions drawn from a lifetime of being told we were separate. And I know it sounds like a paradox to begin comfort by disturbing the foundation. But if the foundation is a mistake, the only true comfort is to correct it. If I have my shoe on the wrong foot, the kindest thing you can do is not pat it more. The kindest thing is to say, "Friend, let us remove it and place it rightly." That is what we are doing together. We are going to look away from the surface picture just long enough to question the ownership of it. Not to abandon the boat, but to discover the ocean that carries it. This is where it becomes very practical. The moment you shift from "this is happening to me" to "this is a picture appearing in consciousness," something loosens. The fear does not have the same handle. You have not changed the picture yet. You have changed the claimant. You have released, if only a little, the sense that a private, lonely self must master, manage, and survive it. In that loosening, we can begin to feel for what is always present, but often unnoticed, the quiet, living presence that is not a thing you own, but the very life you are. When that presence is felt, even faintly, the same event is seen differently. The same words weigh differently. The same body breathes differently. I am not asking you to pretend you are fearless. I am inviting you to notice that the fear you feel is not proof of separation. It is a symptom of believing it. And beliefs can soften. Beliefs can be surrendered. This takes no heroics. It takes humility. It takes perhaps the smallest willingness to say, "I do not know who I am apart from God, and I am tired of trying to be." That is not capitulation. That is sanity. That is the end of arguing with life and the beginning of listening. So we will proceed on that basis together, not fixing a person, but discovering there is not, in truth, a person abandoned by life, not denying what the senses report, but granting them their place and refusing to give them the last word. We are here to let the last word be spoken by what is first, presence itself. If that seems lofty, keep your sense of humor. We will take this step by step. For now, hold this simple thread. Nothing is wrong with you as a separate person, because there is no separate person. The pain you feel is not being judged. It is being relieved of its imagined owner. And in that relief, you will find, not by effort but by discovery, that the heart can rest even before the picture changes. And from that rest, very often, the picture begins to change. Now let us look directly at the only real claim that keeps slipping in through the side door. It does not come as thunder or philosophy. It comes as grammar. It comes as habit. My anxiety, my depression, my lack, my damaged past, my difficult family, my prognosis. Notice the tiny hook in that phrase. My. In that small syllable, a world is built. In that word is the silent signature of a private owner, a solitary sufferer, a manager with a tool belt tightened around a frightened waist. And the moment ownership is declared, suffering deepens, because now there is an owner to be bruised, a manager to fail, a private life to be measured and found wanting. I am not belittling anyone's language. Oh, not at all, not at all. We learned this way of speaking at the knee of the world, and the world taught us in love as best it knew how. But if we are willing to be instructed by a deeper love, we can begin to hear that every "my" attaching to a condition, a memory, a mood, is a pin fastening the shirt to the skin. And then, when we try to move, we bleed and wonder why movement hurts. The condition may be as it appears, but the proprietary "my" is the barb. The "my" is the claimant. The "my" is the separate self taking title to the picture. Let us try this on, not as a trick of words, but as medicine for identification. There is no my life to manage, no my mind to fix, no my supply to fear, no my future to control. There is no my health to defend, no my reputation to polish, no my past to drag along like a sack of old newspapers. Do you feel the floor shift a little under that? The mind may protest, If there is no my, who will pay the rent? Who will call the doctor? Who will apologize for what was said? And the answer is gentler than the mind expects. Not a frightened proprietor, but life itself appearing as the right step, the right word, the right care in its season. The withdrawal is not from common sense. It is from self-ownership. Now, let's be very clear, because if we do not, the mind will run off and accuse this message of being cruel or foolish. Negation is not suppression of feeling. It is not refusal of medicine. It is not pretending the storm is sunshine. Oh, not at all. Not at all. Negation, in the way we are using it, is the simple act of withdrawing false proprietorship from the human scene. It is taking your name off the deed of suffering. The rain may still fall, and you may still carry an umbrella, but you will not add to the weather the sentence, "I am a rain person, cursed by clouds." The body may require treatment, give it. The heart may ask for a counselor's listening, receive it, and all the while do not add the second arrow. You know this second arrow. The first arrow is the sensation, the event, the picture, pain in the knee, a pink slip, a cold silence at the table. If we stopped there, felt it honestly, took the steps at hand, the arrow would be enough and would ache and would heal. But the second arrow is forged in the secret workshop of my. This means I am behind. This proves I am unworthy. This shows I am defective. This is who I am, now and forever. And then the wound is not just in the knee or the job or the room. The wound is in identity. That is the one place where the hurt is unbearable, because there we imagine it is final. There we imagine it is me. If the first arrow comes, let it be simply what it is. If the bill is due, it is due. If the friend leaves, they leave. If the lab report says what it says it. But do not let the second arrow be drawn. Do not build a shrine to the picture and write your name upon it. Do not whisper over it, my flaw, my fate, my life sentence. Not this, not this, not this. The moment you refuse to make identity out of circumstance, you have already eased the greater pain. You have already obeyed a higher sanity than the world's reflex, and you have done it without drama, without refusing a single wise human step. Now, the mind, restless, may say, well then, who am I in this? And we are coming to that. But begin simply. Begin by recognizing the hidden assumption hiding in the phrase, there is a me inside this problem. Who authorized that me? Where did it come from? Was it born with the birth certificate, or was it constructed from 1,000 photographs and report cards and looks from other faces? The me that takes ownership of anxiety, that collects sorrow as trophies or indictments, that measures itself against other me's, is a collage. It is a patchwork. It has no light of its own. If you watch it closely in a difficult hour, you will notice it is built of memory and fear and a very tired vigilance. Must that me carry the day? Must that me be the beast of burden for every picture that rises and falls in consciousness? Here is where the pressure begins to lift. If there is no private owner inside the picture, there can be no private doom assigned by it. If there is no my mind to fix, thought can quiet without an overseer whipping it into silence. If there is no my supply to fear, the needed provision can arrive without a panicked treasurer beating the drum. If there is no my future to control, right order can appear without a frightened architect drawing plans at 3 in the morning. We are not improving a person, we are awakening from the personal claim. We are not polishing a mask, we are putting it down. And I know there is a tender part that says, if I put it down, will there be anything left of me? Will there be anyone to love? Will there be anyone responsible at the wheel? Oh, yes, yes, but not the one who has been wearing the wires thin, not the solitary owner, but the life that owns none and includes all. If the me is the false center around which the storm whirls, then healing is not the perfecting of the center. Healing is the discovery that the center is presence itself and not a person. We do not erase you. We let you be found as you have always been. Expression, not origin. Instrument, not source. Form, not force. There is but glass, as we shall see. One life, one substance, one selfhood, appearing as many. For the moment, practice this small, subversive kindness. Catch the possessive word as it rises to fasten itself to the picture. When my anxiety starts to form in the mouth, pause. Let it soften into anxiety is appearing. When my failure pounds at the door, open it and say, a picture of failure is passing through. When my past lays a hand on your shoulder, feel it, yes, and then answer, memory is moving. Do not make a law of this. Do not be superstitious about syllables. This is not a game of correct speech. It is a re-education of ownership. It is loosening the knot where the second arrow is tied. In that loosening, you will begin to notice, almost to your surprise, a gentler space where the breath can change by itself, where the wise human step suggests itself without a manager pushing, where a kind of inward neutrality appears, not cold, not indifferent, just not owned. That is the foretaste of what we mean by oneness. That is the little dawn before the sun rises that lets you know the night cannot define the day. And from there, as we go on, we will find that the one thing truly asked of us is not to become superior managers of a haunted me, but to consent to the disappearance of the private claim and the appearance of presence. Then the picture, whatever it is, finds its right place, and the heart, without brag, without strain, discovers it is not the victim of life, but the witness to life being itself. Let's take up that promise. I said, there is but glass, and I don't want to leave that as poetry. I want it to be as practical as the water you drink. If I could, I would hold up before you an ordinary tumbler from the breakfast table, a simple glass, not holy, not precious. You've washed it 1,000 times and probably chipped a few. Now look with me at this very plain object and let us ask a baby's questions. Where does the outside of this glass leave off, and where does the inside begin? Is there an outside that is not the glass, and an inside that is something else? Are there two sides, two substances wrestling for space, or is there a tumbler? If you lean too close, you will say, here is the surface I can touch, and if you peer within, you will say, here is the space that can hold water. But pause. Tell me, if I turn it over, does the outside become the inside? If I pour juice in, has the glass changed nature, or has function simply been engaged? Can I lift off the inside and put it on the table while keeping the outside in my hand? Or, no, there is but glass. Inside and outside are names we give for usefulness. They describe how the one thing can relate to air and to water, to lips and to cupboards. They do not make two glasses. They do not make two substances. Now, as gently as we can, bring that seeing home. The secret of life is oneness. The relationship existing between God and man is the relationship that exists between the invisible substance of the glass and its visible form. God is our invisible selfhood, the very being, the essence, the what it is that you cannot seize with fingers. We are the externalized expression, the edge that meets the world, the shape that relates and serves. Two in function, yes, because the invisible does not sit on the table, and the visible cannot be the fountain from which life flows. But one in being, there is but glass. There is but God appearing. There is no me or you separate and apart from God, any more than there is an inside of the tumbler that can be peeled away and kept in a drawer. When the mind hears this, it makes a quiet sound, somewhere between relief and alarm. Relief because it has longed not to be alone. Alarm because if there is no separate self to manage or defend, what will become of my life? Let us take that with patience. If there is but one life, then the appearance we have been calling my condition cannot of itself be a private possession or a personal sentence. It is a picture, a mode of appearance arising in the one consciousness that is God expressed as this universe, as this very you. Do not mistake me. I am not saying throw away the prescription, or turn your back on the appointment, or ignore the child who is crying in the back row. Oh, not at all, not at all. I am saying stop fastening the picture to a separate owner. The moment you say, "This is mine," you have imagined a second glass, a rival substance, a me in here being battered by a world out there. And then the same picture, which might have passed as clouds pass, now becomes a climate, an identity, a law. But it feels like mine. I know, I know. The hand goes to the heart, and it feels like mine. The breath shortens in this chest. The checkbook sits in this drawer. The mirror returns this face. We have been trained from birth to live inside lines, skin lines, property lines, dotted lines on forms, and we have taken the training for truth. The training is necessary for traffic and for taxes. It is a convenience in the marketplace and the kitchen, but convenience is not reality. What is convenient for counting coins is murder for counting souls. The sensation that says mine is honest to the sense mind, and we don't smash it with a hammer. We simply ask it to sit down while a deeper truth speaks. Inside and outside are names for usefulness, not for being. Consider again the glass. If I fill it with muddy water, does the form become dirty of itself? Or is the substance of glass as it was, capable of shining when rinsed, never having turned into mud? And if I lift it into the light does not become glass. The glass does not become light. Yet in the presence of light, the whole object is seen for what it is. So, with us. Conditions appear, some sweet, some bitter. Pictures come, some we would hang in a gallery, some we would hide in the attic. But the being, the what you are in God, remains glass, remains God appearing, not dirt, not disease, not debt. To recognize this is not to wave a wand at appearances. It is to remove the secret barb that made them personal and therefore punishing. Do you see how this loosens the cruelest knot? If there are not two beings, the owner and the owned, but one being in two functions, the invisible life and its visible form, then we cannot condemn a neighbor without speaking against our own life, and we cannot condemn ourselves without speaking against God's own showing of God. Oneness does not reduce compassion, it multiplies it. You look at the man on the corner, and yes, you may say, here is a picture of lack. But you cannot say, here is a separate soul cut off from God under a private curse, not if there is but glass. Instead, something utterly practical happens. Your heart softens, your hand opens, your prayer ceases to be advice to a distant deity and becomes realization, right there at the curb, of one life present, one self unfolding. Your face does not turn away because his face is your own face in a different angle of light. Now, don't let the tender mind become frightened and say, if we are one, then must I swallow all the world's grief? Oh, no, no, that is the old owner trying to sneak back in through the side door with a bigger bag to carry. Oneness is not a larger burden, it is the end of burden. You do not take on the weight of 1,000 pictures, you simply stop believing any picture establishes identity, yours or your brother's. Then the help you render is free of superiority, and the sorrow you meet is free of despair. You move as the glass moves, open to be filled, open to be emptied, without imagining you are the contents. You are not the mud, you are not the wine. You are the transparency through which the light can be seen and the water can be served. Let us be frank here, because we must be. The sense of separation has made us harsh. It has made us judges, sometimes very religious judges, sometimes very secular judges, but judges all the same, of our bodies, of our histories, of the neighbor's mistakes. And the secret judgment, it turns out, is always against God's own showing of God. When we see the tumbler as tumbler, we cannot maintain the luxury of contempt. You cannot despise the outside without striking the inside. You cannot set up a tribunal against a form without setting one up against the substance. That realization won't make you soft-headed. It will make you sane. It will send you to the doctor when the body calls, to the accountant when the numbers call, to the neighbor when the knock comes, and it will remove the poisonous whisper, "This proves what I am." There is no proof here about what you are. What you are is settled in oneness. I would like you to carry this with you into the hour when the picture presses. You don't have to preach to yourself. You don't have to argue with the symptom. Just, if you can, look at an actual glass when you wash up tonight and ask the childish question with a wiser heart, where does the inside end and the outside begin? Wait a beat. Smile, if you can, and let the answer rise, not as a thought you manufacture, but as a simple seeing, there is but glass. Then turn that seeing inward, not to think it, but to notice it. There is but God, and this that I call me is God's showing of God. This picture is not an owner. This picture is not an identity. In that quiet, you may find the breath come back on its own. You may find the next human step come without a manager. You may find, just there, a softening, the personal claimant loosening its grip. We are not far from the place where the sea of thought grows still and the contact is felt. We are preparing for it by clearing away the false two-ness that makes the contact seem like a miracle instead of a birthright. For now, hold this. When oneness is seen, the notion of a private, isolated sufferer begins to dissolve, not because suffering is mocked, but because the sufferer cannot be found as a separate owner. There is but one life appearing as many, one glass performing many services, one selfhood unfolding. And in that seeing, what we have called healing begins, not as a victory for a private person, but as the natural rest of God being God, here, as you. Now, if we are to let that seeing become breath and not merely metaphor, we must come to the place I hinted at, the rising above the sea of thought. Let's be very plain about what I mean by thought, or you will go home and try to outthink your way into God, and then grow discouraged and decide this doesn't work. By thought, I mean everything that can be seen, heard, tasted, touched, and smelled. I mean all that can be remembered and all that can be predicted, all that can be measured on a chart or praised in a review or insulted in a hallway. I mean the story your grandmother told about you at the table and the story you told yourself at 3 in the morning. I mean the number in the bank, the ache in the knee, the letterhead on the envelope, the look on the face across the room. I mean beliefs, opinions, doctrines, arguments, moods, strategies, hopes, and fears. All of it. That entire moving picture, beautiful in places, terrible in others, is the sea of thought. Now thought has its honorable uses. We will not go back to the stone knife and flint because we have discovered prayer. Oh, not at all. Not at all. Thought will help you balance a checkbook, boil an egg, dial your doctor, make it to the train mostly on time. It will remind you of birthdays and recipes and street names. It can describe a mountain and put a roof over your head. Honor it for that. Bow to it for that. But do not ask it to be God. Do not ask it to be peace. Do not ask it to heal identity. It cannot. It will rearrange the waves, and sometimes it will do that very cleverly, and you will have momentary relief from the splash on one side of the boat, only to be startled when a bigger wave comes from the other side. Why? Because thought, no matter how refined, leaves intact the little center that says me thinking, me managing, me surviving, and that me we have seen is the wound. So when you set out to solve your life from inside thought, what do? You strap the manager tighter and you wade into the surf with a teacup, trying to bail an ocean. You do not notice that the ocean you are trying to bail is the very water in which the me believes it lives and moves and has its being. And I am not chiding. I have bailed with the bravest, but freedom did not begin until exhausted and perhaps a little amused. Yes, a sense of humor helps here. I set the teacup down and looked up, not heroically, not with fireworks, just up. And there, above the sea of thought, above pictures, above arguments, above memory and forecast, was a quiet, a presence not manufactured by me, not depending on me, a simple isness. In that quiet, the ache did not announce a law. In that quiet, the fear did not write a decree. In that quiet, the very center seemed to shift, from a private manager to an ever-present life that has no rival. How do we do that? How do we rise? Thinking won't make this so. Struggle won't make this so. We do not climb a ladder to God. We do not lash our thoughts into saints and then hope the saints will walk us into heaven. No, the rising is more like ceasing to sink. It is the simplest turning, inward, down, and in, if you like that direction, or up and through, if that helps your heart, away from the picture as owner and toward the presence as identity. You don't fight the thoughts. Please don't start a wrestling match with your own mind. You will only win another bruise. Let the waves be waves. Let the chatter be chatter. Notice the urge to manage. Smile at it. There you are again, dear manager. And then, gently, without drama, withdraw attention from the content and let attention rest in its own source. What does that mean in a kitchen, on a lunch break, beside a hospital bed? It can be as simple as this. You catch the breath tightening, the picture is speaking loudly. You feel the body lean forward to fix it. Right there, you let the shoulders soften by a degree. You let the jaw unclench by a degree, and you say nothing out loud. Inwardly, without syllables, if you can manage it, you consent to be still. If a word helps, make it short and spare. Here, or I, or God. Or the simplest of our mantras, seek me only. Not to inform God, not to convince God, but to remind the mind to stop collecting Bibles and turn to what alone is. And then listen, not with ears. Listen with the heart for the faintest stirring, a warmth without source, a loosening without cause, an unprovoked okayness. Sometimes it is a tiny click, sometimes a sigh that wasn't ordered, sometimes absolutely nothing that the senses can salute. And yet, when you rise from that minute or two, you discover that the manager has relaxed, and the next human step announces itself as already provided. Now, if you say, I tried for 3 minutes and nothing happened, beware of the old foreman with a stopwatch. We are not keeping time on God. We are not manufacturing a state and then grading it. This faculty is already yours because it is not a faculty added to you. Awareness recognizing awareness is simply the self-knowing itself. The difference between a saint and a beginner is not that God is with one and not with the other. There is no such God. The difference is only the degree of awareness, the frequency with which the turning is made, the readiness with which the manager is thanked and asked to rest. And we can cultivate that like we cultivate taste, by simple, repeated, sincere contact. Let me offer a picture for the practical mind. Think of an old radio, one with a dial you can hear as it moves. Static is there, voices are there, music is there, all in the room at once. We do not shout at the static, be still, I want Beethoven. We do not condemn the singer in our impatience. We put 2 fingers on the dial and we tune. A hair to the left, a hair to the right, and suddenly what was always there emerges. The station did not come into being by your effort. You came into alignment by relaxed attention. Rising above the sea of thought is like that. Static is thought, good thought, bad thought, loud thought, sad thought. The station is presence. We do not create it. We do not persuade it. We rest on the dial until the click. And to head off the usual misunderstanding, no, this does not mean you shirk the human step. Oh, not at all, not at all. You may find, on the other side of that minute of quiet, that you are to call the doctor, and you will call. You may find you are to apologize, and you will apologize. You may find you are to cross the street and take a hand, and you will cross the street. But now the step is not born of panic. It is not an attempt to save a private life. It is the movement of life itself, expressed as you, without an owner announcing a victory. That difference is everything. That is the ground on which healing is natural. If you tremble and say, "But I cannot still my thoughts," let us remove the burden right now. You are not asked to still your thoughts. You are asked to discover that you are not your thoughts. When awareness sits back in itself, even a fraction thought can rattle like a distant train, and you, not as a person but as presence, are unaffected. Then, even if the picture remains for a season, the second arrow does not fly. The identity is safe without walls. And very often, let us be honest about our experience, when identity relaxes into oneness, the picture begins to lose the urgency, the noise, the command. Sometimes it changes at once, and we are grateful, and we do not make a doctrine out of it. Sometimes it changes by degrees, and we are grateful, and we do not make a grievance out of it. In either case, the healing we are after has begun, because the owner has been dismissed. Practice this in small moments. Waiting at the red light, sitting with a cup at the window before anyone rises, standing in the grocery line while your mind composes a chapter on the decline of civilization. Let that chapter pass like clouds. Touch the dial. Rise a hair above the sea of thought. You will learn the feel of it. It is a familiar country, actually, because it is home. The presence does not glare or scold. It does not perform for the stopwatch. It simply is. And in that isness there is a government, an order, a love that is not a mood and not a bargain. That presence of God is the insurance policy. Where it is felt, fear loses authority, and wisdom, of a kind that needs no debate, comes to sit in the chair. And if you falter, if you forget and sink into the waves for a while, do not make a melodrama of it. Smile. The ocean has not become your enemy. The radio station has not gone off the air. We have simply let habit steer for a few minutes, and now we remember, and now we turn. Keep it human, keep it light. You might even thank the garbage men who come banging down the street precisely when you decided to be holy, because that rumble is your training. Can you rise a hair even while the cans bang? If you can, then you have learned something truer than any special quiet room could teach. This is the place where healing is natural, not because we have conquered the sea, but because we have stopped mistaking the sea for identity. Not because we have proven ourselves worthy, but because we have discovered that worth was never in question. From here, the rest will be given in order: ideas, helps, hands, health, supply, peace, added things, none of them idolized, all of them welcome. For the moment, let us be still for 1 minute, even with traffic in the distance and dishes in the sink. Turn from the picture, turn within, and consent to the click. Where God is, I am, and there is no me apart from God. Now let us be quiet and let that be true without words. Now, if we are to make that stillness more than a beautiful interval, if it is to become the heartbeat of our day, we must look plainly at what we have called prayer, not to scold. Oh, not at all, but to be honest with our habit of running into the holy with a shopping list, or slipping into bed with a bargain, or kneeling, sometimes heroically, sometimes wearily, to inform God about conditions that, if we are truthful, have been rehearsed to the last decimal point. Do you see that this is still the manager at the microphone? And more, it is the ancient attempt to influence God, to instruct God, to get God to lean this way instead of that, as if God were a weather vane and we the wind. Let us smile at ourselves. I have done it. You have done it. The world's religions are full of dear souls doing it. And yet, down in us, something blushes, because if there is but one life, one mind, one selfhood being itself, whom am I addressing across a distance? If I am the tumbler's visible form and God the invisible substance, where would I post the letter? To what address would I send the improvement plan? Is it not truer to say that what we have called prayer has too often been the ego in ecclesiastical clothing? So let us turn the garment inside out and call it by its real name. Prayer is not petition for a better person, a finer circumstance, a quieter symptom, a bigger bank book. Prayer is realization. Prayer is the humble, wordless, sometimes worded but never bargaining, awareness of God's present selfhood, right here as the only I. The prayer now becomes the realization that where God is, I am, and there is no me separate and apart from God. That awareness is the healing because separation is the only wound. To help the mind, let's take a lesson from the sky. You cannot ask the sun to shine. You cannot kneel at the window and plead for lumens. The sun is doing what it does, and has been doing it, quite without your advice. But you can bring yourself into that sunshine. You can walk from the cellar to the porch. And when you do you then need to pray for warmth? Do you need to petition for tan? No. Warmth and color are inseparable from the sun's presence. In the same way, you cannot ask God to be God. Life, love, principle, substance. God is. But you can consent inwardly to come out from the basement of thought into the presence already radiating. You can turn from the picture to the cause. And when you do, peace arrives without lecture, wisdom without debate, supply without anxiety. You did not get effects from a distance. You came into source and effects tagged along because they were never severable. Seek me only. That is the only prayer we finally have. Seek me only, not as a slogan, but as a discipline of attention. When the mind starts to count bulls, counting and fretting and polishing them, catch it kindly and turn. Seek me only. When the ache begins to preach identity, when the headline stirs up storms, when the ledger shouts lack or the mirror whispers age, seek me only. Not that effects are evil. Oh, not at all, not at all. Not that science is profane or art suspect or commerce wicked. It doesn't mean you refuse a prescription or ignore a budget or abandon a canvas. It means you stop drafting the holy into your fear management. It means you let cause be cause and you arrive in it long enough to watch fear lose its portfolio. Someone always asks, but what about my duties? My child needs dinner now, not metaphysics. My office needs numbers, not clouds. And we agree. We are not going to let the body rot while the soul recites poetry. We are not going to shirk our footsteps and call it faith. This reversal of prayer brings you into the only sanity by which those very duties are carried out rightly. From presence, the hand moves to the stove with a calm you could not have purchased. From presence, the finger goes to the calculator without the tremor of desperation. From presence, the apology composes itself and walks across the room. Outwardly, the same steps. Inwardly, a different government. That difference turns the same action into healing because the owner has been dismissed and the doer is God being itself expressed. Then what do I say when I pray? Some of you will ask because we love syllables and we fear silence will forget us. If a word helps, make it simple and make it true. Here, Father, I am. Seek me only. But remember, the syllable is not the power, it is the cue. The turn is the prayer. The willingness to rest a hair above the sea of thought is the prayer. The consent to be nobody trying to be somebody in God's presence is the prayer. And often before you can say amen, the amen has set itself in the body as a softening, in the mind as a widening, in the room as a gentleness that has no source you can point to. If nothing is wrong with you as a separate person, because there is no such person, then prayer cannot be self-improvement. What would we be improving? A ghost of our own imagining. Prayer is awakening to what already and always is, God as the invisible selfhood of you, and you as the visible expression of that. When that becomes more than a sentence, when it is felt, even slightly, the rush to advise God ends. The embarrassment of trying to influence omniscience subsides. We do not shout at the sun, we step into the light. Let us be concrete for today. 3 times, only 3 if that is what you can bear. Pause for 60 seconds. Turn from the picture, sit in the chair, stand in the line, lean at the sink. Close the shutters a fraction on the senses and let attention rest, not on words about God, but on the bare fact of isness, as immediate as breath. If a thought interrupts with its collectible beebles, smile and set the trinket down without a trial. Seek me only. When the minute is over, take whatever step presents itself. Do not grade the minute, do not inspect the step. Just keep the practice. In a week, you will find the muscle of turning has strengthened, and the habit of petition has withered for lack of use. Now, I know our old nature wants to bargain even here. If I do this, will I get that? Who am I kidding? Get thee behind me, Satan. This is not a vending machine. This is life itself recognized, in which all the good that is God is already the nature of your being. To come into that is to discover that the most satisfying answers arrive without questions, and that what you once ran after with a net perches on your shoulder of its own accord, not because you captured it, but because you ceased frightening it with pursuit. We will not hold God hostage to our outlines. We will not insult God with our blueprints. We will not weary ourselves with prayers that try to polish the outside of a tumbler while forgetting the glass. We will, instead, return to the simple prayer, realization, quietly, inwardly, of God's present selfhood. Then what must be added will be added in its order, and the added things will not own us. The warmth is the sun's gift. The tan is a byproduct. Seek me only, and let the rest announce itself. Now, having turned our prayer inside out and right side up, let us look with a little humor and a little courage at the great misunderstanding that has kept the manager so busy. The notion that my life is a collection of B-bills. I can't help liking that word, B-bills, because it makes a funny sound you can roll around inside your mouth. It needs to be a little silly so that when it appears in a serious suit, you can still see through it. A B-bell can be little, a compliment, a like, a seat on the train, or large, a title, a ring, a report that glows, a number on a screen, a number on a scale. A BBLE can be a plan that insists on happening this afternoon, or a romance that insists on arriving by Tuesday. A BBLE can be certainty about tomorrow, control over a body's whispers, the promise that no one will ever disapprove again. When undue importance is attached, when the heart leans on it to say, there, now I am safe, now I am somebody, it has become a BBL. Do you see how, almost without noticing, my life turns into a shelf of these? Up there we line them, status on one end, approval in the middle, security on the other, and we spend our hours polishing, displaying, guarding. We do not call it worship, we call it prudence or self-care or ambition, and yet the ritual is unmistakable. It occupies the thought, it tightens the breath, it narrows the room. And when a B-bell is threatened, someone else gets the praise, the plan falls through, the mirror votes no. The whole inner court assembles and announces a crisis of identity. Who am I without this? That sentence is the siren. There is the misunderstanding. Now, let me bring this closer, because for many of us, the stickiest BBLs wear the costume of self-knowledge. We go to a wise person or a test or a book, and we come away with a label: anxious type, sensitive type, failure type, overcomer type, whatever it may be, and we think we have been handed truth. But notice how quickly the label becomes an ornament around the neck. We touch it in the morning and we leave the house to either confirm it or resist it. If we confirm it, we are faithful to our BBL. There it is again. This is me. If we resist it, we are equally faithful to our BBL. There it is again. I must fight it. Either way, the BBLE rules the day. The hours are spent scanning the horizon. Am I performing up to my new name? Am I disproving my old one? And all the while, the actual self, the one not in need of description, waits in quiet, unthreatened, unlabelable. This is the slavery I would like you to see, not a slavery to people or even to circumstances, but to outcomes. Attachment to outcomes demands constant surveillance. Am I better yet? Healed yet? Successful yet? Validated yet? Safe yet? The mind, in love with Beebles, keeps pushing the stopwatch into God's hand and then berates God for not wearing it. The separate me stands at the center like a little foreman, pencil behind the ear, ticking boxes for worth, and in so doing it maintains the very separation it complains about. The ache is real enough. We do not mock the ache, but the distress deepens because we have turned effects into certification. Without them, we fear we are nobody. Now comes the paradox that never quite pleases the foreman and yet, when lived, frees the day. The way to have the right and beautiful use of life's goods is to release the desire to possess them as proof that you are okay. I do not mean a grim vow of poverty or a performance of indifference. Oh, not at all. Not at all. I mean the ceasing of clutching, the end of bargaining, the loosening of identity from the object. In that very loosening, the channel clears. What belongs to your function, to your day, to your usefulness, comes, and it comes without your making a god of it. What does not belong eases away, and you do not take it as a verdict against your being. When you stop asking the BBLE to say who you are, it becomes a tool if it remains, and if it leaves, it was only a trinket and you are still intact. Why does this work? Because in oneness there are no private hoards. Supply, strength, guidance, love are not personal property to be stacked on a shelf and defended. They are qualities of Source, and Source is the invisible selfhood of all being, expressing as needed, where needed, in the measure needed. In the tumbler we spoke of, there is but glass, no separate inside and outside competing. In the sunlight we laughed about, there is but sun, no private ray for the favored and a shadow for the rest. We do not kidnap a beam and put it in our pocket. We step into the radiance, and warmth belongs to the stepping. In the same way, we cannot steal wisdom from God and store it like jam. We turn, we make the contact, and wisdom functions because God is being God, and there is no me apart from God. Try this with a live BBL, something on your desk or in your heart. A message arrives with the promise of approval, and the breath jumps. Touch your cue. BBL. Say it softly inside with a little smile, as if you had caught a child trying to wear your shoes. Then, as we have learned, turn from the picture even for 10 seconds. Consent to presence. Seek me only. Let the click be as faint as it wishes. Now open the message and answer as one who is not hungry to be certified. The words will be clean, or you step on the scale and the number preaches. Notice the sermon, beable. Turn, consent, click, and then take the human step that presents itself today, not out of shame, not out of pride, out of sanity, or a plan falls through and the calendar accuses. Catch the accusation, be Beal. Turn, consent, click, and let the next step appear, which it always does when no one is shouting me into the hallway. Please hear what this does not mean, even here where we are speaking of BBLEs. It doesn't mean we despise success. refuse affection, neglect the body, or take vows against money, music, medicine, or machinery. It doesn't mean we make a new BEBLA of being above BIBLEs and then parade it. It means that we let effects return to their rightful place as effects, useful, sometimes delightful, sometimes sorrowful, always secondary to cause. With cause felt, however slightly, life ceases to be a field of threats and becomes a field of support. The same job becomes an arena for giving instead of a ladder for worth. The same relationship becomes a place to love rather than a court to win. The same body becomes an instrument to be cared for rather than an idol to be worshipped or a defendant to be cross-examined. When we stop using conditions and outcomes to certify our worth, the BBLEs lose their power. They dress themselves back into common things, and common things, under presence, become holy in their proper measure. You will find then that many of the goods you once chased turn up of their own accord and, curiously, do not own you when they do. Others that you thought essential never arrive, and yet you are not diminished. Why? Because the center has moved from the shelf to the source. The foreman is retired. The stopwatch is put away, and life, unopposed, begins to show you that it has always been on your side, because it is your very self, not a stranger, you must persuade. Let us, as the day unfolds, keep the little word handy, bubble. Use it not to scold yourself, but to laugh kindly at the habit that made trinkets into gods. Each time you see one, turn, consent, seek, and let the added things come in their order. In that practice you will discover that detachment is not coldness, it is warmth from a deeper fire. You will find yourself freer, lighter, more available for good. And what a relief, to live in a world no longer ruled by ornaments, but governed by presence. Now we come to the place where the shelf itself must be examined, the one who polishes it, mourns it, congratulates it. If the BBLs have been our ornaments, who has been wearing them? This is where our teacher's simple, severe word touches down, deny thyself. That sounds harsh, I know, and we have made it harsh enough to avoid it. But let us open it and see what is being denied. Are we to deny food to the body, affection to the child, income to the household, medicine to the hurting? Oh, not at all, not at all. We are to deny the false self, the separate manager, the private judge, the solitary sufferer that has claimed ownership of life, and then burned itself out trying to protect what it does not own. We are not being asked to deny human footsteps. We are being invited to deny the fantasy of a private walker. Listen and let the negations work their gentle surgery. There is no my health. There is God as the life of this being. There is no my mind. There is mind, infinite, functioning as the only intelligence of this moment. There is no my supply. There is substance expressing as enough where enough is needed. There is no my history. There is life being itself now, unburdened by yesterday's report. There is no my capacity. There is ability because God is ability, and there is no me separate and apart from God. There is no my righteousness. There is love loving, principle governing, truth being true. Take your own list and let it be undone. There is no my problem. There is God. Where would a problem adhere if there is no private rim on which to hang it? And yet, the little owner is clever. It sneaks back in spiritual clothing and we barely notice. I am progressing. I am failing. I am finally healed. I am very surrendered today. It will boast of its humility and despair of its progress, provided it gets to remain at the center of the sentence. When you hear that voice, do not scold it. Do not make a new be-bull out of being above I. Smile because you have caught the actor rehearsing in your living room, and then ask very simply, who is this I that needs to be important? Who is this I that needs to be failing or succeeding? And turn. Rise a hair above the sea of thought and rest until the click of presence replaces the commentator. The commentator will not like this. It has opinions about your opinions, but it cannot outlast the quiet because it is born of noise and maintained by attention. This dying is not dramatic for most of us. It is daily, as the phrase says. Die daily. How? By ceasing to assert the personal claimant. For the next 7 days, some of you have been with me long enough to know this one. Just never voice the word I in complaint, in fear, in self-definition. Not once if you can help it. When the sentence starts up, I am exhausted, I am worried, I am no good at this, I am behind, I am angry. Let the lips close and let another sentence take its place, not as a trick, but as a truer witness. Here, God is the life of this body, the peace of this mind, the governor of this hour. Or if that is too long, just here, just presence. Use any word that unseats the little owner and enthrones that which is actually present. You will find, perhaps to your surprise, that the body still receives its necessary rest. The budget still receives its arithmetic. The household still receives its apology, or its yes, or its no. But the whip has been dropped. The owner has gone home. You will also find the manager trying to turn the fast into an achievement. I made it until noon without saying I, and then I slipped. Who is counting? Who is slipping? The very minute you notice the old sentence on your tongue, that minute has served you. It has revealed the claimant. Thank it and begin again. We are not practicing to become excellent ego managers. We are consenting to let the manager retire. I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. These are not ceremonial words. They are a description of a day in which the same tasks are done under a new government. The same spoon stirs the same pot, but no one is at the stove proving themselves worthy by soup. Let me bring this down to the mud on your shoes. The back tightens and the old reflex says, I am in pain, I am broken, I will always be this way. Catch it. Be well or not, it is a claimant. Turn. Father, here. Not a denial of sensation, a denial of private ownership of life. Now take the step that appears. Rest, stretch, phone call, medicine, quiet. But do it as one in whom God is the life, not as one abandoned to fix a separate machine. Or the bill sits on the table, and the meter in the mind starts its old song. I am doomed, I am late, I am a failure. Catch it. Presence is my sufficiency in all things. Then act as you must. Phone the office. Make the arrangement. Do the labor without the humiliation that turns a piece of paper into a verdict about being. Or a quarrel flares at home, and the instinct is, I am right, I am wrong, I am injured, I am ashamed. Catch it. Love is here governing. Then let the words that are needed rise. An apology, a boundary, a pause. You will see that action does not get dumber when the owner leaves. It becomes cleaner. Now, because this is so practical, it will feel to some of you as if I am asking for a kind of self-erasure that could be dangerous. If I don't advocate for myself, who will? If I don't plan, who will? Oh, I am not inviting you to become a doormat. Not at all. I am inviting you to discover that advocacy and plan under presence do not arise from fear. They arise from clarity. When the I thins, the judgment thins, first toward yourself. The old inner prosecutor with exhibits and closing arguments begins to lose his voice. Then toward your family, you begin to see that their fireworks are not personal assaults upon your throne, which is being dismantled anyway, but symptoms of the same ancient misunderstanding, a private self trying to become safe. Then toward the world, the headlines do not become prettier, but they no longer find a hook in you so easily, and strangely, your capacity to be of use increases. Gentleness appears not from effort, but from the absence of the one who needed to be severe. To help the tongue with our 7-day fast, keep a few phrases at hand as you would keep water in the car. When the mouth reaches for I, let it reach for here. When the nerves reach for my, let them reach for thee. The life, the mind, the wisdom. When the habit reaches for self-definition, I am the kind of person who, let it reach for silence. You do not owe the world an autobiography. You owe the world your presence, and presence is God being God as your function in this minute. The difference in your body will not always be dramatic. Sometimes it will be nothing but the relaxing of a shoulder or the softening of the eyes. But it will be real. And with that softening, the problem that was snarling at you from the desk or the doorway will look less like a wolf and more like a dog who needs feeding or a door that needs oil. Remember, the personal I is the only true claimant to suffering. A circumstance may pinch. The pinch is real enough in sensation, but the sting, the humiliation, the identity crisis, the endless rehearsal is owned by a private me that believes itself a part. As that claimant dissolves, the problems lose their owner and therefore their sting. They may still require steps, and steps will be taken, but they will not be taken by a terrified orphan at midnight. They will be taken by life moving as your feet. If, as we have said, there is but glass, then our tumbler life will start to show another marvel when we practice this dying. Compassion unmapped by effort. You will walk into a room where someone is bound to their pronoun. I am this, I am that. And instead of arguing or diagnosing or improving them, something in you will know the truth about them without noise. You may speak it or you may not, but the knowing will be there and the atmosphere will shift. Do not make a project of this yet. Simply notice that as you stop collecting B-bills for yourself, you stop coveting and condemning them in others. This is the beginning of blessing without agenda, which we will speak of soon. For today, give the 7 days a chance. Deny thyself, not the body, not the bread, not the step. Deny the solitary proprietor. Replace the reflex of I with the fact of presence, and do not count your wins. The fruit will be quiet. A task completed without the drama, a word withheld that would have stung, a body cared for without the courtroom, a night's rest that does not rehearse tomorrow's trial. And if you forget, even for an hour, even for a day, begin again. We can gradually die to that I. We can die daily. And as we do, the one who lives through all, as all, will be felt a little more, and the world will be a shade gentler for your having remembered who is not running it. Let us sit with that a moment, not to think it, but to feel the click where no owner is needed, because God is here. Seek me only. Where God is, I am. And there is no me, separate and apart from God. Now let us see what happens when this click is not hoarded, because if there is but glass and not two tumblers fighting for space, then the peace you feel when the commentator drops out is not a private commodity, it is an atmosphere. I'm wondering if you have noticed that you can walk into a room where words are sharp and shoulders are up around ears, and without saying anything, without fixing anybody, something in the air loosens after a minute or two. Is that suggestion? Is that charm? Do you have that much personality? Oh, not at all. Not at all. That is the evidence that there are not multiple lives colliding. There is one life, and when awareness rises above the sea of thought in one place, it is not a local event. It is universal because consciousness is not in a skull. It is God being God as this awakening, and God has no corners. They used to call this absent treatment, which is a strange phrase because nothing could be less absent than God. But it points to a fact that you must test. Realization is never private. Whatever you know in secret, really know as contact, not as slogan, becomes the tone of your household, your block, your office. I do not mean that you impose it, I do not mean that you sit in a chair and project rays at people. I mean that you become transparent, and through that transparency, presence does its own work. It requires no outline from you. It asks for no result. It is love without agenda. Let me paint the thing without trumpets. You come home, and an argument has half begun in the kitchen, a pot clanging louder than it needs to, words already perched for flight. The old training rushes in to take sides, to prove, to defend. And then you remember, Beal or no Beal, there is but glass. You turn, not to become superior, not to withdraw, but to discontinue believing in a separate me, facing a separate you. Seek me only. In that half-breath, the shoulders lower, yours first, then, sometimes, the room's. Somebody says, you know, this can wait till after dinner, and there is a little mercy that was not engineered. Or you are in a waiting room where fear has built a fort, and instead of adding your fort to theirs, you let the forts go. You rest in the bare fact, presence is here, indivisible. There is no me to protect, no them to rescue, only God being God where we are. A child who was pacing now sits. A woman who was gripping a magazine now smooths it with softer hands. You have not done anything to anyone. You have not sent thoughts. You have simply refused to enlist in the nation of separation, and the borders have relaxed. I have stood, as some of you have, on a street outside a place that sells forgetfulness in bottles, and watched a man wander out with his tie halfway off and his eyes unfocused, and I have heard, not with ears, the impulse to fix him. That impulse is ego in missionary clothes. Do not obey it. Turn. Father, you are the life of this being. You are the integrity here. Where you are, I am, and there is no me, separate and apart from you, and therefore there is no he apart either. Stand there as no one, and let God be everyone. The man, sometimes, looks up and meets your eyes and nods, as if someone had just said his name, quite kindly. Sometimes nothing visible happens at all. But I tell you, in that refusal to have a private mind about him, the world has moved a hair closer to sanity, and you have been used, not as an influence, but as a window. Please be very clear about this, because the line is thin, and the old manager loves thin lines. This is not mental suggestion. This is not, I will hold a good thought for you. This is not willpower with a smile on. Suggestion, whether we call it good or bad, assumes there is a second mind over there to be improved, and a first mind here qualified to improve it. That is two, and two is the whole trouble. Absent treatment, if we must use the phrase, is the absence of treatment. It is the presence of God realized, and therefore the disappearance in your awareness of separate patients and practitioners. When two become one in your seeing, love is in the room, doing what love does, not persuading, not conquering, not winning, just being itself, which looks like wisdom and calm and a little laughter and the right word or the right silence. Here is the practice, as simple as a glass of water and about as profound. When someone appears as a problem in your field, neighbor, boss, child, politician, stranger at the crosswalk, refuse to accept a separate they and a separate me. Catch the pronoun before it hardens. Turn within. Rise a hair above the sea of thought where labels and histories and forecasts churn. Rest until the click, even if it is very slight today. Then let the next human step proceed. Speak if speech is asked for. Be quiet if quiet helps. Act if action is fitting. But do not go back down into the courtroom to manage outcomes. You will be astonished how often the situation either untangles without your management or presents an obvious clean step not born of fear. In my own travels, some of you know, there have been moments when a room has turned on a dime without any sermon at all. A waiter, red-eyed and trembling, setting cups in front of us in a diner at midnight, and the only prayer available was no prayer. Just the bare fact, here God is. He set the next cup down without the tremble. He said, long night, and smiled as if his own name had just come back to him. We did not pat ourselves on the back. We did not think we had performed a rescue. We just watched the sun do what it does when a blind is lifted a fraction of an inch. And sometimes, let us be honest, nothing visible changes. The noise continues, the child keeps crying, the headline does not rewrite itself. That is fine. That is more than fine. Because your realization is not a wand, it is a witness. It is the proof to you that you do not live as a private mind among other private minds. You live as life, and life blesses by being itself. The fruits appear where they must, when they must, and often not in the place you were staring. This is why we do not outline. This is why we do not count. This is why we do not form clubs to trade testimonies like baseball cards. We are not hiring God. We are not using God. We are letting God use us. If you are asking, but does this mean I never speak, never step in, never call a doctor, never set a boundary? Oh, not at all. Not at all. It means that when you speak from presence. When you step without the heat of self-proving. When you call without panic. Boundaries set themselves easily when there is no little sovereign defending a fence. Words come that are not sharpened on fear. And sometimes the best word is the one that never leaves your lips, because the room has already heard it from the silence. Let us make a vow as soft as a feather and as steady as a metronome. For the next 7 days, every time a "they" rises in your thought, attached to a problem, change it to "here." Here God is. If the word God has been bruised for you, try presence, try life, but do not let yourself rehearse separateness. In secret, know the truth about your neighbor as yourself. You will not need to tell them you are doing it. In fact, it is better that you do not. Whatever you know in secret is shouted from the housetops, not by you, but by the natural radiance of oneness. And do not be surprised then when your personal healing moves, because there was nothing personal about it to begin with. Your healing is the world awakening at your address. It will not stop at your skin. Let us be very quiet now. No project, no mission. Only this recognition: there is but glass. There is no outside to radiate to and no inside to hoard. There is one life, and it is here. Where God is, I am. And there is no me or you separate and apart from God. In that, the blessing is not sent, it is simply obvious. Now, before we go any farther into this quiet, let us be clear on what this does not mean. When we say, turn from the picture, no presence, let the owner retire, some of you will hear a dangerous translation. Ignore your body, reject medicine, stop working, pretend you're happy while the house burns. Oh, not at all, not at all. Oneness is not an invitation to irresponsibility. It is the end of panic. It does not make you less practical. It makes you sane. It returns human footsteps to their rightful place as the natural outflow of peace instead of the frantic performance of fear. It doesn't mean not eating when you are hungry or not sleeping when you are tired. It doesn't mean refusing help when help is at hand or barring the door to a physician because you are proving a point. If the body is cold, you put on a sweater. If the pipe leaks, you call the plumber. If the tooth throbs, you see the dentist. But, and here is the whole difference, the sweater is not your savior, the plumber is not your God, and the dentist is not your fate. Presence is the cause. Presence is the life. Presence is the intelligence moving as every right step, including the step that dials a number or signs a check. The human scene is not disdained. It is dethroned. The moment we place salvation on a person or device, we forge a new idol and then tremble before it. But the moment we recognize God as the only cause, we can use the person or device without fear because we are not using it to certify our worth or to prove our doctrine. We are simply letting life be orderly. Now, another misread appears here, and I have to smile because I've seen it in my own thought. The mind that loves extremes hears, "We are not to be afraid," and it makes a slogan of sloppiness. Nothing matters, bills don't matter, bodies don't matter, words don't matter. That is not freedom, that is resignation dressed for a costume party. Resignation says, "Nothing matters, I give up." Mastery says, "Only God is cause, therefore I will meet each appearing with clarity and without panic." Those are not the same posture. One is a collapse, the other is a still spine. One is a mood, the other is awareness. You will feel the difference in your own chest. Resignation sours the mouth, mastery sweetens the breath. Resignation drops the tools because it thinks they are the boss. Mastery picks up the tool when it is the right tool and sets it down when the work is done, grateful and unafraid. And yes, we will keep a sense of humor about all this, because if you try to make holiness into a new bill, you will soon be staging little martyrdoms for yourself around the kitchen and calling it spirituality. You need a sense of humor when the garbage men arrive at dawn, just as you have slipped into the softest meditation you have ever known. You need a sense of humor when the labor-saving device needs an hour of labor to save you 3 minutes. Oneness does not ban toasters, taxis, or aspirin. It doesn't excommunicate art, music, laughter, or a good meal with friends. It says, enjoy, appreciate, utilize, do not worship. Let beauty pass through you without grabbing it by the throat. Let convenience assist you without appointing it your protector. If the car won't start, don't become a theologian in the driveway. Call someone. But call from presence, not from the courtroom that says, "This always happens to me." You can feel, I believe, that this is a matter of level. There is the level of the picture, bodies, bills, schedules, weather, and there is the level of cause, presence, life, God being God. We do not pretend the picture isn't on the screen. We simply stop stepping into the projector to rearrange the film with our fingers. We sit in the right seat. We let the light correct the focus. When the picture calls for movement, there will be movement, and it will be clean. When it calls for silence, there will be silence, and it will be kind. The same step looks very different when taken from fear or from presence. From fear, call the doctor is a confession of abandonment. From presence, call the doctor is the obvious simple footstep of love, arranging its own forms. Please hear this, because it will guard you from a lot of unnecessary bruises. Refusing a step from fear is not the same as being guided to refrain. Refusal from fear is another outline. I am not the sort who does that. I am the sort who proves. Guidance rests, listens, and then either moves or not without self-congratulation. If you are wondering whether it is fear or guidance, that very wondering is already softening the fear. Pause. Seek me only. Touch the click, even if it is the faintest brush of quiet, and then proceed. You will notice that the aftermath tells the tale. Fear-driven steps leave a taste of heat and argument even when they succeed. Presence-driven steps leave a taste of rightness, even when the outer scene is still rumbling. And because we are speaking plainly, let me say it outright. I am not calling you to a hermitage unless a hermitage is what love asks. I am not inviting you to neglect the children or the payroll or the garden and call it non-attachment. Gardens still need water, children still need breakfast, checks still need signing. The difference now is that you are not making those acts into sacrificial proofs. You are not collecting merit badge, please, to hang on your spiritual sash. You are simply being where you are as the transparency for God, to be God in ordinary ways. And that ordinariness becomes strangely luminous. The broom in the hand feels like a wand only because the hand is no longer clenched. Let us also correct the notion that oneness dulls the senses or dampens feeling. It does not make you a stone. It removes the private proprietor so love can breathe without constriction. You will weep at the song and smile at the child and feel the body's needs with a clearer ear. You just will not make identity out of any of it. There is no my pain to dramatize and no my pleasure to hoard. There is life humming as sensation, and there is wisdom governing the use of everything. In that governance, boundaries are not barbed wire. They are gentle fences that guide the sheep. You will find yourself saying yes without dread and no without apology, because the little sovereign who needed to be liked has stepped down. So, with the misunderstandings set aside, what remains is beautifully simple. We are not being asked to perform heroics. We are being asked to remember over and over the one thing that changes the room. Turn from the picture, make the contact, let life add the rest. Human footsteps will appear in their order. They will not be fueled by the fumes of anxiety. Tools will be used. People will be called. Sleep will be taken. Money will be counted. Laughter will be welcomed. And none of this will be your salvation. Salvation is the presence felt, the sense that God is on the field, and there is no me or you apart from that. Let us then keep it very simple for the rest of today. When the next decision arrives, small or large, take the half-breath. Seek me only. Feel for the click, the quiet, the light touch of being above the sea of thought. Then take the step that is at hand. If there is no step, do not manufacture one. Rest. And if you forget, as we all do, laugh gently and begin again. Oneness does not make you impractical. It makes you sane. It gives you back today without the old ownership. And in that sanity, the world around you will discover that it, too, can be a shade more practical, because someone in the room is no longer living by fear. Let us rest in that a moment and let the reassurance seep in. There is but glass. Where God is, I am. And the next right step will meet us where we stand. Now, if we are going to be honest with one another, we must admit that the mind is always asking for a manual, a single thing to do, a chair to sit in that doesn't wobble. Good. We have a single chair, but before I hand it to you, let me show you how we arrived here, because the sturdiness of the chair depends on the truth that built it. We began where we all begin, with a condition, a pain in the body, a deficit in the bank, a strain in the house, and the mind's reflex was immediate. What's wrong with me? There the hook was set, because the true sting is not the condition, it is the misidentification that follows, a separate me climbing into the costume of the condition and calling it my life. From there comes the deeper ache, the belief in separation, the private person expected to carry, cure, or be defined by a set of moving pictures. Once that private ownership is assumed, we fall into the sea of thought, our favorite ocean, where memories, forecasts, opinions, and all the clever fixes splash around us and never, never let us breathe above the waves. And then, somewhere in you, Grace said, "Enough, turn." And so we did. We turned not to a new set of thoughts, not to prettier pictures, but to contact, to that actual click that felt sense that God is on the field and there is no me or you separate and apart from that. Prayer, then, was reversed. We abandoned the petition for effects as if we could tell the sun to tan us, and we prayed the only prayer worth praying, "Seek me only." We rediscovered that the warmth and the tan, clarity, peace, right action, are not ordered by catalog. They are the qualities that appear when you stand in the light. With that contact, the personal I began to thin. The sovereign stepped down, and harmony started doing what harmony does when no one is managing it. That is the arc, conditioned to misidentification, to separation, to thought, see, to contact, to prayer, as realization, to ego thinning, to natural harmony. This is not philosophy. This is the weather map of awakening, and you have already been in it. So here is the single practice. Turn from the picture, make the contact, let life add the rest. Practically, how? Never start your day, never end your day without turning within. Don't make a ceremony of it. Make a life of it. In the morning, before the headlines, before the inbox, before the mirror has a vote, sit 2 minutes if that is what you have, 20 if the room is generous, and say within yourself, "Seek me only." Not as a sentence to repeat by will, but as a doorway to step through. Rest until there is even the slightest brush of quiet, a softening in the chest, the sense, however delicate, that you have risen a hair above the sea of thought. That's it. Do not ask for a tan. Do not outline your day. Let the sun be the sun. In the evening, close the book of the day the same way. Turn within. Lay down the pictures. Where God is, I am. Let the unfinished jobs and the half-said words sink back into the ocean that does not drown you. Sleep not as a stressed animal, but as an heir of peace. And if you wake at 3 o'clock with a parade of what-ifs, you already know the practice. Turn, make the contact, rest, even if it is 5 breaths, even if it is 1. Now, in between, because the day is not made of only bookends, we will have midday resets. Whenever a symptom swells, whenever a story starts shouting, catch it at the first syllable. The moment the mind says, "What's wrong with me?" translate it instantly to, "Where am I believing in separation?" Then, without argument, turn. Do not answer the first question. Do not hold court. Do not draft a new constitution for your life. Seek me only. Feel for the click. It may be a whisper. It may be a glance out a window that suddenly looks like it's part of you instead of something you look at. That is enough to climb one rung above the waves. From that rung, the next human step will often be plain. You will take it without heat. If there is no step, you will not invent one to reassure your old manager. What should you expect? Please do not expect trumpets. Expect increasing intervals of proportion, quiet stretches in which you are not possessed by your pictures and in which decisions arrive like honest mail instead of like subpoenas. Expect guidance that feels less like a voice from the ceiling and more like a rightness in your bones. Expect, slowly, the sense that life is carrying you the way a river carries its fish, that you are moving with the current even when the surface is chopping. Expect also forgettings. Oh, yes. Expect to be halfway back into the courtroom before you catch yourself rehearsing your case in front of a jury of imaginary faces, and then expect to laugh gently and begin again. The returns are quicker, the gaps close, the click becomes familiar. The contact is the healing, not the performance after the contact, not the story you tell about the contact, but the contact itself. Everything else is added. Now someone asks, but if I let life add the rest, won't I neglect the urgent? Won't I drift? Oh, not at all, not at all. Drifting is the mark of the uncontacted mind, pulled by every breeze of worry. Contact is ballast. It does not make you slow. It makes you steady. The very tasks that look like burdens begin to arrange themselves. The yes and the no find their tone. The phone call is made at noon instead of fretted over until 5. You will find that what looked like multitasking was mostly fear cycling, and what looks like simplicity is wisdom governing usage. And if you doubt this, test it. For 1 week, make the morning and evening contact, make the midday resets. Drop the managing, take the step that is obvious from peace. Refuse to outline beyond the next clean footfall. Watch the difference in the taste of your hours. You will see that the sun does not need your flashlight. Let me give you a cue you can carry in your pocket. When the mind says, hurry, hear it as separate. When the mind says, prove, hear it as separate. When the mind says, what's wrong with me? Hear, where am I believing in a me apart? And answer not with a counter-argument, but with a turn. Here God is. Seek me only. There is but glass. These are not charms. They are steering wheels. They pivot attention from the surface to the source. and from the source, warmth and tan, peace and right action arrive in their order. The more you test this, the less you will be tempted to swap it for a trick. I would ask something else of you, very small and very great. For the next 7 days, do not let your feet hit the floor in the morning until you have felt a brush of that click. You can sit on the edge of the bed with your eyes open if you must. But do not meet the world as a private proprietor. Meet it as a transparency, and do not let your head meet the pillow at night until you have laid the day in God, not as a ledger, but as a leaf on water. If you forget, do not scold yourself. A sense of humor is as holy as a psalm. Smile, turn, click, rest. Now let us be very quiet, not to perform, not to impress the invisible, to rest where we already live. Close the door of your inner room. Whether your eyes are closed or open, it makes little difference. Turn from the pictures without pushing them away. Let them fade like late light on a wall. Seek me only. Where God is, I am. Feel for that slight, unmistakable lift above the sea of thought. No phrases needed now, no projects, just presence. Let it be felt, not grabbed, not measured. If a step arises from this, it will meet you. If none arises, this is already the step. In this stillness, there is no private patient to heal, no separate healer to plan, no world outside to fix. There is but glass. The healing is the contact, and from this, all things are added in their order. Let us rest in that.